And here we go with another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Now, first things first, I'm Bobby Maximus, 6'3", 228 pounds, an unbelievably shredded 228 pounds at that, but I am the muscles. These cards, Magic the Gathering, something that's been a massive passion of mine for literally 31 years. I started playing in Unlimited. I missed out on Alpha. I missed out on Beta, but I was still an early player, a true OG in the Magic the Gathering collecting and playing community. At any rate, today, my volume is on a 10. My enthusiasm is on a 10. My excitement is on a 10 because I'm here to talk about one of my favorite mechanics in Magic the Gathering history that's called becoming the Monarch. And today, it's all about my Monarch deck. It's my Monarch-themed deck, and it is helmed by none other, one of the greatest commanders of all time, Kenrith, the Returned King. And who better to be the commander of the Monarch deck than the Monarch, the iconic Monarch in Magic the Gathering himself, Kenrith. Now, here's the deal. The Monarch feature, if you will, at the beginning of your end step, you're going to draw a card. And then whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, its controller becomes the Monarch. I'm literally off my side computer reading that off of a card that I have pulled up. And the reason that I think this is so criminally underrated, undervalued, is because card draw is one of the most important aspects to winning a game of Commander. You have 100 cards in your deck. Sure, one is the commander, he's out of the 99. So you have, or she is out of the 99. You have 99 cards left. You're going to draw 7 for your first hand. That means you have 92 cards left in your deck. Most games are over. Turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, even turn 8 becomes a long game type deal, right? If you can only draw through a few cards in your deck, you're probably not going to win. The more cards you have access to, the better you're going to do. So that Monarch feature, that is key. Why did I want to build a Monarch deck? Well, one, because I think it's competitive AF. But two, I want to have 100 commander decks. My goal is to have 100 commander decks. And out of those 100 commander decks, by the way, I am at 57 right now. But I want to build all kinds of different commander decks. I've got an enchantment deck. I've got a goblin deck. I got a zombie deck. I got a 1/1 counters deck. I got an energy deck. I got an artifact deck. Like, I'm literally trying to build every kinfolk and every mechanic in Magic the Gathering. And so making a Monarch deck made sense, especially, and I'll show you a little spoiler here, all of these court cards, right? I wanted a place to put all of these. Commander decks are the number one way that I display my collection. So that was an extremely lengthy intro, but you understand why I love the Monarch, why I wanted to build a Monarch deck. With all that in mind, let's get right into it. Let's display Kenrith, the Returned King, and talk about him for a second. Legendary creature, human noble. It's 5-color commander. You pay a red mana. All creatures gain trample and haste until the end of turn. You pay a green mana, and you pay 1 colorless, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. You pay 2 colorless and a white. Target player gains 5 life. You pay 3 colorless and a blue. Target player draws a card. There's that card draw creature, or card draw feature, not creature. And then you pay 4 mana and a black and put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So a great way to get stuff back from your graveyard. That is Kenrith, the Returned King. It's a CEDH-worthy commander, if you will. I know a lot of people play it in CDH. It is a great commander, and because of the 5 colors, you can take advantage of some of the best cards in Magic. So that's Kenrith, the Returned King. Now, let's talk about all the creatures we have in here. And by the way, if you're here to learn how to make a better Kenrith deck, you are in the right place. If you're here to talk about Monarch cards, you are definitely in the right place. So stay tuned. First, creature, Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. Activated abilities or creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha of the Vile Cauldron's power. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. And then if you pay 6 mana, and one of them being a red, one of them being a green. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and haste until the end of turn. This is extremely useful to reduce the casting cost of all these Kenrith abilities. There's no universe where I would build a Kenrith deck where I would not have Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. You need mana ramp. In a 5-color deck, you certainly need mana ramp, so we're going to have the Delighted Halfling, and I shouldn't even say mana ramp. You need mana ramp, but you also need mana fixing. So add colorless mana, or you can add 1 mana of any color. That's what I mean by mana fixing. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. Ton of legendary creatures in this deck. Bloom Tender. For each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. Dockside Extortionist. Yes, my name is Bobby Maximus. I've been collecting Magic the Gathering for 31 years. And yes, I play with banned cards. The banned list has no power at my table or in my pot. I love banned cards. In fact, I think the banned list is an abomination and should go away forever. You can't tell me that Dockside Extortionist is banned, but Sheoldred is totally okay. You see, in my opinion, the banned list is totally arbitrary and it is filled with nonsense. There are all kinds of cards on the banned list that aren't that powerful, that should be unbanned. And there are all kinds of cards in Magic that are really powerful that you could make an argument to have them on the banned list. It's honestly just utter nonsense. So yeah, we play with banned cards and we have the Dockside Extortionist. When Dockside Extortionist enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Another banned card, #free the Hull Breacher. Flash, if an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. We have a left-handed Magic card. You ever see one of these? We have Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. Sisay, Weatherlight Captain gets +1/+1 for each color among other legendary permanents you control. And you pay the 5 mana, search your library for a legendary permanent card with mana value less than Sisay's power, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We have another king, Aragorn, the King of Gondor. Vigilance Lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. This is a great Monarch card. And when Aragorn attacks, up to 1 target creature can't block this turn. If you're the Monarch, creatures can't block this turn. Starscream, Power Hungry. More than meets the eye. Flying. Whenever you draw a card, if you're the Monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. Whenever 1 or more creatures deal combat damage to you, convert Starscream. And what does Starscream convert into? Starscream, Seeker Leader, Living Metal, Flying, Menace, Haste. Whenever Starscream deals combat damage to a player, if there's no Monarch, that player becomes the Monarch. Whenever you become the Monarch, convert Starscream. Starscream, beautiful card. It's worth $10.08. It's this nice shattered glass head version of it, so absolutely love it, and I love Transformers. Thorn of the Black Rose, Death Touch, and when Thorn of the Black Rose enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Another one of those mana-fixing cards, and one of the best ever in a 5-color deck, the Fabro Elder. +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, and for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. We have Emil the Blessed. Exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay a green or a white. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on it. If it's a unicorn, put 2 1/1 counters on it instead. And I am laughing because this is one of the reasons why Dockside is banned. Because you can completely, with these cards, you completely abuse the table. So maybe I shouldn't have put both of those in this deck, but I did. I like it, and it's fun, and away we go. By the way, if you are allowed to play with a Tainted Pact, a Demonic Consultation, and a Thassa's Oracle, I'm playing with those. So bring your tears elsewhere. Council of 4. Whenever a player draws their second card during their turn, you draw a card. That's important in case somebody else is the Monarch. Whenever a player casts their second spell during their turn, you create a 2/2 White Knight creature token. Orcish Bowmasters, fabulous card, one of the best cards in Lord of the Rings. When Orcish Bowmasters enters battlefield, whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps. Orcish Bowmaster deals 1 damage to any target. Then Amass Orcs 1 works really good in a Monarch deck. Faramir, Steward of Gondor. Whenever a legendary creature with mana value 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your end step, if you're the Monarch, create 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Queen Marchesa. Really iconic Monarch card. When Queen Marchesa enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the Monarch, put a 1/1 black assassin creature token battlefield haste onto the battlefield. Really big time in the Kenrith deck. Obeka's Splitter of Seconds. Whenever Obeka's Splitter of Seconds deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. Great card. Mother of Runes. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. The Dawnglade Regent. When Dawnglade Regent enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. As long as you're the Monarch, permanents you control have hexproof. A lot of Monarch cards in here, by the way. You knew that was coming. Emberwild Captain. When Emberwild Captain enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Whenever an opponent attacks you while you're the Monarch, Emberwild Captain deals damage to a player equal to the number of cards in their hand. And this Commander Legend set had a ton of Monarch cards in it. So there's a lot of cards from that set in here, especially on those court cards. Faramir, Prince of Ithilien. At the beginning of your end step, choose an opponent. At the beginning of that player's next end step, you draw a card if they attack you this turn. Otherwise, create 3 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Prince Imrail the Fair. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. We have Alicia, who laughs at fate. First strike, whenever Alicia attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Raid at the beginning of your end step. If you attack this turn, return target creature with mana value less than or equal to Alicia's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Champions of Minas Tirith. When Champions of Minas Tirith enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of combat on each opponent's turn, if you're the Monarch, that opponent may pay X, where X is the number of cards in their hand. If they don't, they can't attack you this combat. The Knights of the Black Rose. When Knights of the Black Rose enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Whenever an opponent becomes the Monarch, if you were the Monarch as the turn began, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The Archivist of Gondor. When your commander deals combat damage to a player, if there is no Monarch, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of the Monarch's end step, that player draws a card. Marchesa, the Black Rose. Dethrone. Whenever this creature attacks a player with the most life or tied for the most life, put a 1/1 counter on it. Other creatures you control have dethroned. Whenever a creature you control, the 1/1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. Greatest mana ramp, mana fixing card of all time, Bird's Paradise. The Dauthi Voidwalker. Beautiful card. Shadow. This creature can block or be blocked by only creatures with shadow. Basically, if you don't have shadow, you are stuck. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere and said exile it with a void counter on it, and if you sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it, you may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. And then we showed this earlier, Shoulder the Apocalypse, Death Touch. This is insane in a Monarch deck. When you draw a card, you gain 2 life. And when an opponent, in case they're in the Monarch, they draw a card, they're going to get punished for it. Now, one more thing. This is low key. It's kind of a humans deck too. Let's count the humans here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 15 human cards in here. So this is kind of like another humans deck. I do have a humans deck already, but it is mono white. It is helmed by Rick Grimes. So this is kind of like my humans deck that includes the blue. It includes the green. It includes the black. It includes the red. So that is kind of a sub-theme to this deck. It's not just the Monarch. It's not just Kenrith. There's a little bit of human activity as well. All right, let's go next to some sorceries I put in this deck. In a little out of order. Normally I do these last, but I want to do them first. We have Reanimate. Great card. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. Path to Exile, one of the greatest removal spells of all time. Swords to Plowshares, another great removal spell. Demonic Tutor, the greatest tutor of all time. The second greatest tutor of all time. The Vampiric Tutor, another tutor to go get an artifact or enchantment. Enlightened Tutor. The Dawn's Truce, gift a card. You may promise opponent a gift as you cast the spell. If you do, they draw a card before its other effects. You and permanents you control gain hexproof to the end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible to the end of turn. We have a counterspell. We have a dramatic reversal. We have an abrupt decay. Listen, if you're playing Golgari, you need this card in your deck. One of the best tutors of all time, a great land tutor, crop rotation. We have an old school mystical tutor. Let's go get ourselves an instant or enchantment. Look at this. Wheel of Fortune. Beautiful card. And then we have Fourth Iralingus. Create X/2/2 red human knight creature tokens. Remember I said there's a human sub-theme in here, right? We're going to make a bunch of these red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to one or more players this turn, you become the Monarch. The ultimate Monarch instant sorcery, in this deck. Let's talk about artifacts. We're going to be drawing a lot of cards, so we need a Thought Vessel. You have no maximum hand size. Really, really important. The Ancient Cornucopia. Whenever you cast a spell that's one or more colors, you may gain 1 life for each of that spell's colors. Do this only once each turn. You can add a mana of any color. The Crown of Gondor, the symbol of the monarchy. Equipped creature gets 1/1 for each creature you control. When a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, there's no monarch, you become the monarch. Can equip 4. This ability costs 3 less to activate if you are the monarch. Mana Fixing, Mana Ramp, the Arcane Signet, the greatest mana ramp piece of all time. The Soul Ring, it's exactly why the Mana Crypt should be legal. We have the Talisman of Resilience. We have the Talisman of Creativity. Chromatic Lantern. Some people hate on this, but in a 5-color deck, this is huge. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. We have the Timeless Lotus in a 5-color deck, a great mana ramp card. Ocelot, the Shattered Spire. We're getting a lot of 1/1 counters in this deck, so it helps with that. I wish it would have included more 1/1 counter type cards in this deck, but I just didn't have room for them the way it was built to get all these Monarch cards in. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many plus 1/1 counters are put on it instead. You pay a couple mana, one of them being green, put a 1/1 counter on a target artifact or creature you control, activate only as a sorcery. It has cycling. Commander Sphere in a 5-color deck. This one is a monster. Do not sleep on it. We have the Isochron Scepter. Love me some Isochron Scepter. When Isochron Scepter enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. You pay 2, you may copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And then we have Elisar the Elfstone, the Cloudstone Curio. Whenever a non-artifact permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you may return another permanent you control that it shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. A lot of ways to abuse that in this deck, let me tell you. Now it's time for enchantments. And I promised you courts. Court of Ventress. When Court of Ventress enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. By the way, I chose the best courts for this deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to 1 other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the monarch, you may create a token copy of it. If you're not the monarch, you may have Court of Ventress become a copy of it, except it has this ability. Court of Locthwain. When Court of Locthwain enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. Basically, there are so many monarch cards in this deck. I am always going to be the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of target opponent's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. And mana of any type can be cast to spent to cast it. I almost lost where I was reading there. If you're the monarch, until the end of turn, you may cast a spell from among cards exiled with Court of Locthwain without paying its mana cost. Court of Embereth, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 3/1 red knight creature token. Then if you're the monarch, Court of Embereth deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of creatures you control. Court of Ambition, you become the monarch when it enters. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card. If you're the Monarch, instead, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. The Court of Cunning. At the beginning of your upkeep, any number of target players mills 2 cards. If you're the Monarch, each of the players mills 10 cards instead. Court of Ardenvale. When Court of Ardenvale enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If you're the Monarch, return that permanent card to the battlefield instead. And then one of the greatest courts of all time, arguably the greatest court of all time in my opinion, but I do love 1/1 counters, the Court of Garenbrig. When it enters, you become the Monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, distribute 2 1/1 counters among 2 target creatures. Then, if you're the Monarch, double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. If you like counters, you need that deck. There is all the Monarch-type cards. Now let's go to lands. Do you have some basics here? Here's one from Assassin's Creed, Lord of the Rings, Dominaria, Lord of the Rings, Dominaria, and another Assassin's Creed one. When I put basic lands in deck, I try and put decks or lands I really, really like. I like collecting lands. I actually ordered some Secret Lair lands earlier because I wanted them for my decks. Now, in this deck, I have 36 lands, so let's go over the non-basics. We have the Tide Channel Pathway. There's another pathway on the other side that is a green mana. We have the Rejuvenating Springs. And by the way, if you're building a 5-color mana base, pay attention because there's a lot of really, really good cards here. We have the Land War Wastes, one of those pain lands, the Botanical Sanctum. We have the Waterlogged Grove. We have the Dark Boar Pathway. The pathways are great. I absolutely love them. Let me show you how these work. They're in your hand. You could either use the Dark Boar Pathway or you could bring it out as the Slitherboar Pathway. So a great way to mana fix the Blooming Marsh. You need pain lands if you're going to build a 5-color deck. The optimal dual land. And I wish I had more dual lands. This is a plateau. I wish I actually had more dual lands in this deck, but I was using them in my Dragon deck, so they're gone. I actually have, 100 dual lands, but they're spread apart a lot throughout a lot of my decks. If I was building this deck optimally, I would have all 10 duals in here. The Reliquary Tower, you have no maximum hand size, really important. The Exotic Orchard, add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. I think this is great in a 4 or 5 color deck. You're always going to get something you need. Shivan Reef. Fortified Beachhead. As Fortified Beachhead enters the battlefield, you may reveal a soldier card from your hand. There's some soldiers in here. Fortified Beachhead enters the battlefield tapped unless you reveal a soldier card this way, or you control a soldier. And then you can add a white or a blue, and then soldiers you control get +1/+1 till the end of turn. We have the Grey Havens, works really well with legendary creatures. The Razorbird's Thicket. We have the Addarkar Wastes. We have the Copperline Gorge. We have the Yavimaya Coast. We have the Brushland. I think I have all the pain lands in here. Mines of Moria. The Plaza of Heroes. Add a colorless mana and add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control, and then if you exile the same target legendary creature gets hexproof and indestructible to the end of turn. We have the Caves of Kolos, another of those pain lands. Spirebluff Canal. The Mystic Monastery. Command Tower, the greatest land of all time in Commander. The Inspiring Vantage. The Cascade Bluffs. The Path of Ancestry. And here is a lonely basic land that I forgot. Those are my lands. Like I said, I would have more of those duels if I had them. I have about 100, but they're used in other decks. This one did make the cut. I wanted to put it in there. But that is my Kenrith Monarch deck. Now, some pieces of metadata from this. I tell you how many Monarch cards we have, but I actually don't know. We just have all of them, all right? There are 100 cards in this deck. Obviously, it is Commander. The deck itself is worth $1,216. It is technically a Bracket 4 optimized. There's 6 game changers. Demonic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Crop Rotation, Mystical Tutor, and Orcish Bowmasters. There's 5 tutors, Demonic, Vampiric, Enlightened, Mystical, and Sisay Weatherlight Captain. There are a couple of illegal cards. There are the Dockside Extortionist and the Hull Breacher. If you're playing at a table that doesn't welcome banned cards, you can just always swap those out. There's plenty of other cards that you could use. If you notice, I do not have a One Ring in there. I would love for there to be one. And actually, that brings up a really interesting point I want to talk about. If you ever look at my decks and you think, geez, Bobby doesn't have a One Ring in here. What's going on with him? He doesn't know how to build decks. These are real cards. This is the most real Magic the Gathering channel on the planet. Look at that. It's a real card. This here, this is a 100% real plateau, right? Look at the condition on that. I play with real cards. I don't use proxies. I don't use graphics on the screen like a lot of channels do. So a lot of times when I build decks, one of my limitations is what cards do I have? Now, I told you earlier, I have 57 total Commander decks. I would put a One Ring in every deck, but I don't have 57 of them. So again, had to make some changes, but you want to take one of those legal cards out, the One Ring, that would fit the bill. For the other legal card, I'd probably put an Imperial Seal, all right? But just hear me out. That's how I build decks. So again, if you ever wonder why they didn't include this, it might be just because I don't own one. But I'm constantly tinkering my deck, so you might see it added one day, all right? So it's a bracket 4. Now, the mana value, I talk about this all the time. The mana value of this card is 5. The mana value of this card is 4. That makes the total mana value 9. Plus 2 is 11. Plus 1 is 13. The total mana value of this deck is 177. That means it's going to move insanely fast. Under 200 is my goal for my decks. Now, sometimes with a big beefy deck, like an Eldrazi deck or a gimmicky type deck, like a Braids deck, I cannot do that. But in general, I like to get it under 200. So this is one of my faster moving decks. It's one of my more competitive decks. It is really, really fun. And again, that Monarch feature, criminally underrated in Magic. So there we have it. Kenrith, not the Bird's Paradise. Let's get Kenrith down here. We have Kenrith. We have the Monarch. We have a human sub-theme, not the mono white humans. We got the red humans. We have the black humans. We have the green humans. We have the blue humans. We have a lot of humans going on here. We have a lot of just really, really fun cards and a great mana base if you're building a 5-color deck. So, love this deck. Here, do me a solid. I just said that I use real cards, and I want suggestions. I'm always tinkering with my decks. In fact, by the time this video gets uploaded, chances are I have upgraded this deck or I have added to it. When I'm in my most private moments, I am at this computer. I do have all my deck boxes, all 57 decks that I have, and I am tinkering with my decks. I actually have a giant stack of cards I need to add to my deck, obviously with the Final Fantasy release, and some of those Final Fantasy cards are going to go in this deck. So if you have suggestions for me about cards you would add, please put them in the comments below. Chances are I will make the substitutions. Some people have made fabulous substitutions in the community. And that's one thing I love about the Magic the Gathering community. Just a like-minded group of people from all over the world that are just really kind and willing to help other people. And I love that you have a seat at my table and I have a seat at yours. So leave me those comments. Give me some suggestions on deck building. Subscribe, notifications on, share the channel with all your friends, and I'll see you for the next installment of the muscles, that's important, in Magic the Gathering.